different points of view and highs and lows. A new perspective everywhere you go. Open up your mind, drown out the noise, and see if this connected. And see if this connected.
This is St. Joseph Catholic Church in Upland, California. It was founded in 1922. The name at the time was St. Anthony. The parish was renamed St. Joseph in 1940. St. Anthony was a mission of St. George in Ontario. In 1935, it became a mission of Our Lady of Guadalupe in Ontario. St. Joseph became a full parish in 1943. The original church building was a small structure that had been a Japanese church. It was moved to the site at 905 North Campus Avenue in 1922. There was an addition to the front of the building made in 1936. The second church, school, convent, rectory, and auditorium were dedicated on Thanksgiving Day on November 24, 1955. The current hall at this time used to be the church. There was a groundbreaking ceremony held on the Sunday of September 3rd, 1978, for what is now the new church building. The church was completed and dedicated on Sunday, October 12, 1980. In 2018, the church was again renovated to see what it looks like today. So what's up, fam? And here we are at St. Joseph Catholic Church in Upland. Let's look at the mountains behind us, if you can see it right there. And we are going to do our very first tour of the very first parish in our visit of 47 parishes in the diocese of San Bernardino on its 47th year anniversary of its inception, one of those words. But here we have my friend Kimberly, who's going to give us a tour and a history of this community, St. Joseph in Upland. So hold on. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Arnell.
Thanks for inviting us to St. Joseph.
Thanks for coming.
And we really wanted to hear all about St. Joseph in this beautiful, beautiful community that is St. Joseph, our very first one to show in our 47 church visits. So tell us a little bit about St. Joseph.
Wow. So St. Joseph's, we actually just celebrated our centennial back in 2022, which means that our parish was founded in 1922, but our history starts actually quite a few years before that. So in 1907, Emilio Valadez came from Mexico in search of, a new life. And he was already a widower at that point. He had some children, but was widowed. And then when he moved here, just looking for a better life and to bring his children. And so there was in this area, we're super big with historically with citrus groves, and so he was hired as like a land overseer, um, overseeing workers and the citrus groves, and then eventually he kind of moved up the ranks, became a landowner, and then he bought kind of this whole lot that the parish is on, and kind of more some, in about like 1922, and over like 30 then on, they called it the Valadez camp, and so it was, just flat, about 30 plus shacks with immigrants and their families who were the citrus pickers. And so in 1922, down by the railroad tracks, there was a various buildings, and Japanese immigrants were creating the railroad, and out of nowhere in the early 20s, the construction just kind of stopped, and those immigrants moved out, and they kind of left this building behind. And so Emilio Valadez bought it, and then on like tracks and buggies brought it up from down where the railroad was, and the first building was where this church currently stands. And so then it was more than a church, because there was like not a lot out here. So it was their movie theater when like movies came out. They held dances, different community gatherings. It was like the hub for all the families in the area. And then in 1943, we were officially established as a parish, but as you shared, diocese hasn't been around for 100 years, of San Bernardino. So we were originally in the Diocese of San Diego. And then we had our first pastor was Father Jeremiah O'Farrell, and there were about 500 plus families when we became like an official parish. And then we can start moving.
Yeah, I heard that originally in 1922 it was a mission church.
Yes,
for
it was
St. George in Ontario.
Yes, so the priests would come from St. George out here. We'll actually cross this way about once or twice a month, maybe, and then eventually we became established as a parish, and then we had our own priests. So this building is our current day. We use it as our hall, so for like parish events and different things like that. This is the front of it. We actually like rarely use this entrance anymore. We use a side door that we'll probably walk by. So this was built in 1955, and when it was built, it was used as our main church. So the inside, it's remind me the word where it's like long and it
Cruciform?
goes cruciform. So it's pretty cruciform inside. It's very long. And on the walls, we used to have beautiful like murals of the Stations of the Cross. So they were painted. And then where we now have our like current stage is where we had the altar. Oh. And so this was built in 1955, and that's also when our school opened and when the Presentation Sisters arrived from Ireland. So first they only sent like 3 or 4 sisters to establish the school, and it opened up as a K through 4. And then as the children grew up and reached 8th grade, that's when we built it all the way out to K through 8.
Are you going to talk about the uniqueness of the dome right there?
Yeah, okay. So a lot of people say that the dome looks like a spaceship, but it's actually one of my favorite things about the parish, because when you're inside, it has stained glass, and in the early mornings or when the sun is going down, it shines into the church in my opinion, like the most beautiful way. Even when like the moon is like super bright and you're inside the church with all the lights off, it is like absolutely beautiful. And so the cross on the top has like Celtic features to give like an homage to the architect like chose that, but also because there's a lot of like Irish immigrants in the area, and we had a lot of Irish priests in our first few years. That statue of Saint Joseph with baby Jesus, we got that from Vietnam in 2020. I remember the day that they delivered him, and I was like, Saint Joseph is here. It was like huge, and they had like a crane and everything.
Wow, from Vietnam.
Yeah.
Oh. And the church looks like it's round.
It is. On the inside it is. Yeah, it is very round. So we used the hall as our church until like 1980. So our parish kept growing and growing and growing, and we needed more space. And so actually, in like the 1970s, we grew to be such a big parish that we had to split, and that's how you get St. Peter and Paul in Alsoloma.
So literally, St. Peter and Paul was part of St. Joseph.
And then the community just grew to be too big, and they decided they were going to build a church up there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so this is actually the entrance that we use now. It's like the side, and so we have, in back here we have like a kitchen, like industrial kitchen and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah. And then in 1979, 1980, we broke ground and built this church under the direction of Father John Slattery. Right now, we're going to the back garage, where our His Hands Food Pantry Ministry is. Oh, fun fact, this Divine Mercy mosaic and this kind of like garden area was built up in 2020, and those mosaics come from Italy.
Ooh.
And then in here, through this gate, it's a little, we call it the children's garden, dedicated to babies who were aborted or miscarried or born asleep. So people can go in and pray there.
You see the baby Jesus.
Yes, with his sacred heart. Father Alex loved that, and so he got it. During COVID, when we couldn't be like inside the Adoration Chapel, we built that window where you saw like baby Jesus. We built that window, and we put the monstrance in there.
Do you still do that?
No, we reopened the chapel. It's a little different than what it used to be in like the 90s, but we do have an Adoration Chapel.
Okay.
So the His Hands ministry started in 1985 under Father Pete Vavro. He was the first of MSC priests that we had here at our parish. So the MSC stands for Missionaries of the Sacred Heart. It's a religious order, and we also have a very big lay community of MSCs here in the area, led by Anna and Danny Gemeiner. But His Hands, so we had the MSC priests here from like 81 to 2004. So and then we just pastor after pastor that was MSC, And so His Hands actually started in one of these back houses that's like next door neighbor type, because there were lots of immigrants and families from Texas that were struggling, and then they came out to California looking for work, and then they needed assistance, and that's when the ministry opened up. And so now today, though, it's just out of here. It's a food bank. It's Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., 2 hours a day every weekday. And it's completely run by volunteers. We have a staff member who's like oversees it, but day to day working with the community, we have a schedule of volunteers that come, like they're dedicated. I come on Mondays or I come on Tuesdays.
Wow, so Monday through Friday, 9 to 11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so families are allowed to come, and homeless individuals, anybody who needs assistance, they're welcome to come once every 2 weeks, and they get 2 weeks worth of food. And then we do extra stuff like around the holiday. So around Easter, they'll put together Easter baskets for the children. For Thanksgiving, they will have a big like food giveaway where they'll Morongo will donate turkeys, and we'll give out like 50 turkeys to families. And we have food like sweet potatoes, mashed potatoes, corn, like things like that, so they can make their like Thanksgiving dinner at home. And then also on Thanksgiving Day, we cook for the homeless.
And how do you get those supplies though?
Donations. Also, like when we fundraise, we have a annual ladies tea party. So and there's like raffles, and you have to pay to get in and things like that. You have to buy your ticket. That is like a fundraiser for His Hands, and then they apply for various grants and things. So to touch a little bit on specifically like youth ministry, it really flourished in the 80s through like the early 2000s. That's when I think we had like the most amount of like youth, like middle school, high school, kids in confirmation programs here. That's in part due to a very dear pastor that we had, Father John Fonstock, who was a missionary of the Sacred Heart. And we had Miss Anna Gemeiner, who was like the head of like youth ministry, and it like flourished. It was huge. In the early 2000s, there was a big like staff turnover, and it kind of died out. And then now we are like slowly rebuilding. So like 2 years ago, we started our young adult ministry, the Yomis, which is...
Wait, pause. Whose idea was it to call them Yomis?
Not well, okay, technically mine, because it stands for Young Adult Homies, and it was a joke. And then we were trying to think of like a proper like name, and then the others in the group were like, I thought that was our name, and so Yomis was born. So
That is really catchy, though.
yeah, so when we first started, Yomis only had, it was me and a friend Sebastian who started it. We had like 6 to 8 people for our first like 6 months, and then now 2 years later, we have actually like a week after our first anniversary, or our anniversary was on August 2nd, so pretty recent. We now have like over 100 people on our email list.
Wow.
Yeah, and then Martha, who's our youth and confirmation coordinator, she has a really sturdy like youth group, and they're starting a middle school ministry.
Awesome.
Yeah. So Father Johnny like really lit the fire in like people's hearts, and that's why like the youth and young adults have been so supported in our like new efforts to like rebuild it.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
I have a heart for youth and young adult ministry, so I'm so happy that it's happened since the 80s.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then like I was in youth ministry when I was in middle school, but I was like, and then now as a young adult, I'm like, let's pour into our community. So,
Amen.
Yeah, let's go talk about Adoration Chapel.
Let's go.
This statue of Jesus is also from his special order from Vietnam. We had a like fountain over here that like was built up, and then we actually like took it out when we did the patio, which is called the Emmanuel Plaza. It was built just like last year, the year before, just because we saw that like we wanted people to come and hang out after mass, and without this the sun just really beats down. And when ministries were doing like ministry fair, you'd be moving the canopies like all day, and so this was a very good like project that we got. Yeah.
And you have a statue of the
We do have a statue of Our Lady. So she's always been relatively in this area, in like this little corner. Obviously we had to move her when we put the pillars up for the patio, but unfortunately during COVID there were some individuals who had like hurt in their heart, and they came and vandalized, and they like kicked her over, broke her, and then but it's amazing the way community works though, because literally the next day we had volunteers here repairing her, repainting. We built like a little fence around her. So the inside of the church, we did a complete remodel in 2018 under Father Tim. We did a complete remodel on the inside. So we took out the old carpet, leveled everything. Now it's like a tile, new lights, new sound system. It was a lot of work. And it was funny because they did all the remodeling during the summertime. And so we did mass in the hall like it used to be. But it was so I remember that was when I was an altar server, and we're like up there like sweating bullets, but all for the glory of God. So yeah, now we have beautifully new remodeled church. I remember growing up, okay, so my family, everybody just like, because a lot of my family lives in Pasadena, everybody gets married at St. Philip's, right? So growing up, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna get married at St. Philip's. And my mom was like, you don't go to St. Philip's, like why are you gonna get married there? And I was like, because it's a pretty church. And then mom was like, no, you're gonna get married at St. Joseph's, like if I get married. And then I had like no sense of pride for like my parish. And then after that I was like, whoa, and then that's when I also got like really involved. So I was like, home parish pride. So love the parish.
I can't wait to see it. It is so beautiful.
Yeah. And then so while we're outside, because the Adoration Chapel is right through there, we opened up like a perpetual Adoration Chapel in like the probably like late 80s, early 90s. And like Jesus was like exposed at all times. And school's getting ready to go back to school. There's testing the bells. And then after, a number of years, there weren't people with him. And so we decided to like kind of close it or change it up. And then it has been like over a number of years. And we used to have the church open all the time, but with vandalism, we just couldn't. It wasn't safe for the like adorers or like people coming in. So it kind of closed. And then in the like mid 2010s, one of our parishioners, Nancy Thuwanal, she's an amazing artist. She does we have some of her paintings like in the church, and she always makes these like holy cards and things like that. So she and her family and other donors helped like revamp the Adoration Chapel. And so Jesus is in there, and like the tabernacle closed, and we have him exposed on Wednesdays. So the chapel is open Monday through Saturday from like 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. and people can go in and pray and things like that. And so, and then we do First Friday adoration in the church, like Jesus Exposed. But in 2021, we, and this is kind of like a reason why we keep Jesus like in the tabernacle as opposed to exposed. One, because we can't have a, like, it's hard to have doors there all the time with him, so we can't have him exposed in that way. But also just like for his safety, because in 2021 there was a man who was struggling and he set like a Bible on fire and lit up the chapel. Praise God, it like was, there wasn't like a lot of damage, just like some smoke damage, but it was like pretty much. And then we're like, okay, what are we gonna do? And that's when we moved Jesus to the garden in the window. And then enough time had passed and enough adorers were like, let's get Jesus back in the chapel. So this is our presentation chapel. It's a chapel dedicated to the Presentation Sisters and their foundress Nano Nagel. From their community was founded in like the 1770s, and that was in Ireland when the British were oppressing them and were coming after them for practicing Catholicism. And so Nano Nagel created kind of like an underground system of teaching and catechizing young children. And so that's kind of like the mission of the sisters. And that's how they ended up here at our school, like 200 something years later. So this chapel is dedicated to like the sisters, their service, and the order. So on the side wall, we have a beautiful mosaic. We'll probably see it later when we get inside. A beautiful mosaic of Nano Nagel, like leading the children at night to like be catechized. All this beautiful landscaping was done by our Tongan community, and we have we're a very mixed community. We have various Hispanics, we have a big Filipino community, but a special community that I feel like deserves a lot of recognition is the Tongan community. So in the 1960s, there were a lot of immigrants from Tonga into the Inland Empire, and slowly like growing and connecting themselves. And so in the early 80s, they kind of planted themselves at Our Lady of Lourdes in Montclair. But from then, they kind of still moved parish to parish. And then in the mid-late 80s with Father John Fonstock, the Tongan community was invited to kind of set their roots here. So they have been in our community since the like mid 80s. They just like history of Catholic Tongans, like in the US, there are 33 separate communities throughout the US. 8 of them are here in SoCal. So like LA, Orange, San Bernardino. They are beautiful people, very community oriented. They have mass here 2 times a month in Tongan. So one of their priests comes and they have mass here. And then what I think is beautiful is that after every like mass that they do, they go into the hall and they have like they're here for like the rest of the day with enjoying each other's company as a community. So it is, and they're beautiful. I love when we so for Easter Vigil, we do like a multicultural mass, just because we have so many communities here. We will do like a reading, and we'll get close to the like 7 like readings, so it'll be English, Spanish, Tagalog, and Tongan. Wow. And then our leader of like our music ministry and liturgies, Luis, he worked with like the various communities to create like a trilingual Gloria. So it's English, Spanish, and Tongan, and it is like my favorite version of the Gloria that like I've ever heard.
So you're saying that the Tongan community takes care of the garden?
Essentially, yeah. So that is Freddie and his company, Freddie and Lori Pomee. Yeah.
It looks so beautiful.
Yeah. They put a lot of like work into it, especially like being so generous, like teaching us like how to like set it up and what would look good. And so this also came in the remodel of 2018. And yeah, their community is just so beautiful, and they take care of their elders, and yeah, it's great.
Look at this statue. Now you're saying this statue came from Vietnam.
Mm-hmm. And we would get updates from the artist when he was like working on it, when they were working on it. Same thing with the statue of Jesus.
I love the fact that baby Jesus is resting his head, sleeping on his shoulder.
Yeah. And so what I like about this outdoor area that goes all the way around the church is that during Lent we'll put stations outside, and they have a QR code, and when you scan it, it'll send you to like a reflection that we've recorded. So you can like pray the stations outside, walking station to station.
Oh.
So like obviously we do like the Fridays, Stations of the Cross, but if anybody wants to come any other day during Lent to, pray that devotion, they're welcome to outside.
That's a really great idea.
Yeah, it's we do it for Yomis at least once during Lent. We pray it together, and we walk station to station. So yeah, this is the outside. This is like the front main entrance. We like almost never use this one. We use the one in the back that's close to the parking lot. But this is St. Joseph's. So welcome to the inside of St. Joseph's. This image of St. Joseph was painted by one of our parishioners, Nancy Juvenal, who was also one of the ones, like the main person who pushed for the Adoration Chapel to be reopened. One thing one of my favorite things about this parish is all the mosaics. So we have this like mosaic stained glass window, and when you're standing like right in front of it, you can't really tell what it is, but they go all the way around the church, and it's the like Stations of the Cross essentially. You have to step away from it, yeah. And then what's interesting about this parish is that it's round. So our tabernacle is right here. This is where Jesus is. So those who are in this chapel, the presentation chapel, they get a straight shot view of Jesus. And then on this wall is that mosaic that I shared with you about Nano Nagle, which is why we call this side the presentation chapel. So yeah, Nano Nagle founded the Order of the Presentation Sisters in 1775. So let's go this way. So this is the church. This is the main body of the church. And then again, you see here, we love mosaics. So we had these imported from, I think, Italy. I'm going to say 2018, 2019, around the time of the remodel. So these go all the way around the church. This is the end of it, and so the beginning is on the other side.
And yet still the mosaics also
match, yeah, the windows. Here we have Mama Mary. They'll move this, I think this statue for like May crowning onto the altar, and then the school children like crown her. And that's a tradition that has been happening since like the time that like school started, like the May crowning with the children. And obviously you see we have like TVs to put like the readings and the responsorials and the like words to the music. People
That's new, right?
Yeah, relatively new. We had donors who donated the TVs, and we put them up. Came with the news. Luis works really hard to make sure we have a really good sound system. So for the past few years, that's been like our focus. It's like plus two, it helps. We have a few years ago, if you had asked me, I would have said we had an aging community, but now I definitely think that like does not apply anymore. But to accommodate those with like who are hard of hearing, can't see well, like yeah, we have like the books, like the hymnals with like the readings for Sunday. It's like really small for some of them, and so I think this is a great accessibility tool.
I had never thought of that.
Yeah.
I think this is probably the only church that is round in our diocese, San Bernardino.
No, because the same architect who did this also did like Peter and Paul, and that's also pretty rounded. And then Okay, so this is what I was telling you about the dome.
Mm-hmm.
You see on the inside we get the colors. So if the lights were off, you could see the red just kind of coming through. You can see it on the floor of the altar. So we have kind of not structural issues with the dome, but then like the ceiling leaks just because of the way it was built. So they also have the same issue. The same architect, similar dome. So these are our confessionals. We have one here and one there. We'll go in this way. Our holy oils. So here is supposed to be like the main entrance, right? Because that's Campus Ave. So this beautiful light that comes in. Again, what can I say? We love stained glass. Yeah, like 2 or 3, I think 3 years ago, there was a woman who vandalized and like broke in and broke this glass, and we had to get it completely replaced, but it looks almost exactly to what it used to look like. So this welcomes you into the parish. And then here we have our little like donor tree where we honor our donors. And then that is like where the Eucharistic ministers like get together. We call it the bridal room because during weddings that's when the bride gets ready. And then you'd be surprised, we actually have a really substantial attic and like storage space. It's crazy. Bathrooms here, and we have for our centennial, we commissioned with local iconographer Vivian Imbruglia to make us the.
Wow.
Yeah, Vivian is a friend. I've come to know her through the Carmelite Sisters, and her talent is like unmatched. She's a beautiful soul. And then let's come back this way.
There's so much here.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things that one of the reasons why I wanted to do this is people will pass through a parish and never see all of the little beautiful things.
Mm-hmm. So here we have like the resurrected Jesus. So instead of a traditional crucifix, we have Jesus and the cross kind of like separated, but it reminds us that like Christ did not stay on the cross. He resurrected, that there is hope and that he will come again. So we're not locked into our sufferings, that there is more to why Christ came.
And I love the fact that his shadow is cast on the cross behind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So this is like one of my, from where you're standing right now, this is one of my favorite shots of the church during Mass. And then I photograph the First Communion Masses because my mom's the DRE. And so right here during the consecration, when priest lifts up Jesus, right here, this is the money shot. I love, and like it's church is full of people and the kids and they're like little First Communion outfits. And so I love this. Over here, we'll see St. Joseph, and then we'll come up back this way. And then like during Lent, no, not during Lent, during Easter, we'll do like a Easter lily fundraiser. We'll sell flowers, and then they'll like adorn the whole front of the altar for like the Easter season. And then we put them out here too. And then during Christmas time, it's the poinsettias.
And you were saying here, I just wanted to go back to the altar, that the lights, there's an ability to change those colors.
Yeah, it's mainly these that are like in the back. Mm-hmm. Those change colors. So we will change them for the season, like purple for Advent Lent. And then we'll do like a red for Pentecost. It's great. It's great.
Like these little things.
Yeah. Here we have our sleeping St. Joseph.
Aww.
My guy. People light candles similar with Our Lady. So this is the main entrance that people use. It's like the side door, but this leads to the plaza, the outdoor, and the.
It's not become the main entrance.
Yeah, pretty much. So this way, this is where the choir sits. We have a piano. We used to have an organ. Nobody really knew how to play it. We got rid of it.
Where was it before?
It was like right here.
Oh, I see.
So it was the piano and then like the organ. But you notice that like it slopes down. So, I mean, you don't really notice it when you're walking, but like it's really funny during mass, like when we have a lot of kids and like there's a kid who has like a ball and it like rolls all the way down to the front. It will land at the foot of the altar. So this is our baptismal font. So this painting of the baptism of Jesus was also made by that parishioner I was telling you about, Nancy Duenall. Yeah, and this baptismal font is relatively new, also came with the renovation. So the water circulates. So when it's on, the fountain is on and it's like a wall of water and this is all connected and it like circles through and then this will be full and overflowing with water constantly.
Oh,
So it doesn't overflow out here, it stays concentrated in here and it flows through. Yeah.
that is so cool.
Yeah, and so then for Easter Vigil, when I'm taking pictures, I will sit here with whoever's playing piano, and I get a really like good pictures of like people getting baptized. Easter Vigils are my favorite out of like the whole year.
So the altar
Yeah,
is solid. Solid
Yes.
marble. Where
Yeah.
there's no space underneath.
no.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.